Esdras Job SQY said, hello. Esdras Job SQY said, no mic sound if you're speaking. Esdras Job SQY said, I can hear the game and the text to speech.
How about now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, cool.
Esdras Job SQY said, there we go.
Thank you, thank you. Sometimes it's just, for some reason, sometimes it just lose the configuration of the mic. I'm just giving like one lap here, trying to get one lap before the session, because I just watched his replay and I want to see if I can come here, he breaks here, and he does a little, like a few things different than what I do. That's my wife, ladies and gentlemen.
Said, hello, I'm here.
Hello, you're here. Hey, wife. Oh, this is 4th gear. That's what I'm doing wrong. So this is all 4th gear. I don't think we have enough time. Brake here. Gas. It doesn't reduce here as well. Here's like the only here like it goes down. I missed by a lot as it apex here. I'm under pressure. I'm under a lot of pressure right now for no reason. So let's see if I can put one fast lap. Just one before I get his spin. Yeah, we changed something there. Let's see here. Nope. Okay, but we changed something there for sure. We won't have time to do another one, so I'll just exit for now. We're gonna have the coach in 1 second joining us. Let me see if he's already asking here. He might be already asking somewhere. And let me get VRS for us because he's gonna share this. This was what I was looking at. Jesus, I'm excited. I'm speaking too fast. I usually speak fast, but today it's especially fast. So analyze session. Let's get the one I just did earlier today. This was yesterday. Let me just take a quick look with his lap here. So reduced from yesterday from like, this is 0.848 divided by his time, which is a 134.291. So that's 94291, right? So we are below like the 1% that we want to be below. The goal after this season should be like within half a percentage point. So this is 0.9%. Want to be like below 0.5%. But just looking here, everything, we improved like a full 10th here. I don't know what we did here. Oh, we're actually faster here. But in general, getting the curves closer to his, but it's still like a lot of difference. Like braking super late here, he's gonna talk about it later, and harder here for no reason. And yeah, let's see. He's already pinging me, so yes, ready. So let's see what we learned today. He's gonna share his screen, so I'm just gonna close, or just gonna pull his aside. And he's already calling me, so let's do it. Hello, sir.
Good evening, Alan. How are you, brother?
I am doing well. How about yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you, man. Good, thank you. How's your week been, all right?
Good. Like this week we're not racing competitively.
That's good.
So
yeah,
it's just like practicing and having fun.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Just make sure. I think your mic might be on the wrong input potentially. Maybe it's on the camera microphone,
Yeah,
maybe rather than the
just give me
headset
one
mic. Just
sec.
make sure, because I'm sure your stream will hear the same thing potentially as well.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Yeah, yeah,
Perfect.
that's fine.
Yeah,
That's fine.
perfect.
Can you hear me all okay?
Yeah, you're okay. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, no, good. Because I remember this happened. This happened last time, and then
Ben
I
Ian
remember hearing that the stream
said,
couldn't hear you properly. So
Liz
hopefully
says
it's all
hi.
all okay on that end as well. But yeah, no, all good. Well, yeah, how was the rest of the end of last week with Summit? Did you do any more racing? Any more racing there, or what was your end result at that in that sort of aspect?
I did a couple more races there. I never got
Yeah.
anything better than P2, which was very
Okay.
frustrating because I had a lot of pace, but it was always
Yeah.
something off. Like during the race that I really had a chance to win, I ended up getting rear
Yep.
bumped, and yeah,
Yep. Okay. Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Well, look, I think we're at that stage now where as annoying as it is to finish P2, imagine really a month and a half ago, imagine saying to yourself that you're getting frustrated with finishing second. It's something that a while, well, not even a while that long ago now, but I guess just a bit over a month ago now, you were kind of yeah, just dreaming of even being in such a position. So to feel like now that you're getting a bit flustered or a bit frustrated with finishing in second place consistently. I think that's a really really good sort of place to be. And again, it just shows that you're gaining a lot of sort of confidence in what you're doing, and you can just see when you get all of these sort of consistent results as well, right? iRating wise, you just keep going and you keep going and you keep going and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's sometimes how it goes as well, is that we want to win, all of us want to win. That's why we do racing. We all want to sort of do the best job that we kind of can, but at the same time as well, about gaining I rating, and I suppose in that sort of area, it's about being as consistent as possible and sort of thinking about in the sense that not every single race that you hop into you have to win. It's just always about saying, well, what's the best way for me to gain? What's the best way for me to increase my I rating? What's the best way for me to improve? And it's kind of just saying, okay, well, how consistent can I be with sort of finishing? And you can see that, yeah, even at this level, you gain so much rating for finishing second anyway. It's kind of like, okay, well, the difference between me finishing first and finishing second, I gain, maybe an extra 5 or 10. But of course, we want to win. But it's a case of to be able to consistently feel comfortable with finishing second place. And I guess that first place result being, maybe a driver that's in maybe, the 4Ks, or, it might be someone that just might be really good at the circuit or whatever it may be, you know, it's a pretty good place to be, because ultimately, almost in a sense, you're the best of the rest, which I think, again, a while ago, we probably really wouldn't have been able to say the same thing. So I think, yeah, no, it's amazing to see. And again, just watching your racing, I think it's really, really good. And yeah, I think definitely, as we keep working through this season, I think we'll definitely try and have a little bit of a discussion about racecraft, because I think, just watching, I think I've probably seen moments where, we could have a discussion about, knowing situations that you can kind of be in. And I suppose that's the big thing with racecraft, is that I have a lot of drivers that specifically come through to me to just sort of say, okay, well, like the speed is pretty good for me. I just want to try and mainly focus on racecraft. And I think the big thing with racecraft is, I think a lot of drivers' kind of perception of it is that we need to understand, okay, how to drive side by side with one another and how to be alongside another driver. But the best way that I've actually, figured out in the sense of teaching someone how to sort of improve their racecraft isn't actually about sitting there and driving with the other person. It's actually about knowing the situations that you want to be in terms of racecraft, and knowing that, okay, if you're ahead of a driver and you're defending, what's basically the two main situations that you're going to run into? What happens if you defend? What happens if you stay in your racing line? What happens then? Vice versa. If you're the car attacking, what happens if you go around the outside? What happens if you go down the inside? Where does it lead you coming into the next corner? And when we think about being in a race situation, you've only got, well, less than a click of the fingers really to make a decision. You don't really have a lot of time on your hands to really make a decision, or do you really have time to think? So it's more so a case of you want to already have situations for, let's say, you know, all your passing spots, you know, or realistically nearly every single corner, even though it might not be a passing spot, what still happens if you go down the inside or go around the outside here? What's the end result going to kind of be? And you can always say, okay, if I'm behind, I can do this or do that, and this is where it's going to end me. Or if I'm, you know, in front, I can do this or do that, and that's where it's going to kind of, you know, put me in place coming out of the corner. So it's more so just about understanding situations. And I know, like, you know, sometimes unexpected things can happen. Like, I think Summit Point, for example, you know, I always remember back to, you know, when we talked last time, when that guy centered down your inside and then he kind of tapped to you and you spun out. And it's kind of like in situations like that, what could you do differently in a moment like that to sort of, you know, to avoid an incident like that? And again, it's just about saying, you know what, like, they're kind of not really in striking distance, but again, we know how these drivers are. In all honesty, in these races, sometimes we know that if there's a gap, they're gonna probably go for it. So it's very much a case is if you sort of understand what a driver's about and how a driver is driving in a race, for example, and you see the kind of style that they have, if they're very calm, if they're very aggressive, you know, you can just sort of kind of say, okay, well, if this was a driver that was maybe more calmer, they wouldn't go for that. If it's a driver that's maybe a bit more aggressively, well, let me make sure I cover that one off, you know, and you know that for, you know, for the future. But again, that was a hard situation because you had a guy that jumped the start and then was trying to, you know, be in the lead of the race, but then he was like 6, 7, 8 tenths slower than what you were. So it's just a case of like you were trying to worry about that and not crashing into him, but then also trying not to be passed from behind. So it's a hard sort of line to draw, but again, it's just about having situations in your mind. So that's something that we'll definitely have to get into later in the part. But yeah, look, I think Oschersleben, what's your thoughts with it as an initial point? How do you feel with it? What's your kind of initial sort of thoughts and benchmarks on this circuit so far?
It's a tough track. It's a very tough track. I
Yeah.
feel it I won't say it feels similar. It does feel similar to Okayama in the sense of like the
Sure.
design of the layout and stuff. But that
Yeah.
first combo of corners, I think it's very unique because it feels like the track is trying to push you to the wrong direction. So you really have to hold the car there.
Sure.
But I started struggling a lot. Then I got more and more comfortable. Now I'm like down to a point that I kind of know what I have to work on to improve. And I was just watching your lap again, and I was noticing a few different things. Like, so for example, in the last 3 or 4 corners, you never go down to third gear again. And I was going to third gear. So that's like naturally taking speed out and also creating the extra rotation that we sometimes don't need. And in this first one as well, like you really open up once you're past like the left-hander, they're going actually hairpin to the right side. You really open up, and that gives you a very smooth and very nice way to go on the gas without necessarily the car trying to spin. And that's something that I was struggling. So I kind of like I'm finding the things that I have to work on. But honestly, like I think if I'm to the best of my ability in one lap here, I can take right now like maybe another 2 tenths. But with what I know right now, I could probably not, or with my skill level right now, I don't think I could go like lower than that, even though I'm gonna try.
Yeah, okay, for sure. And again, I think probably more so in the case as well of what we've been discussing too, in the sense of like the way that we want to drive. We try to more so drive in a way that we can be consistent with what we're doing as well, right? I think that's always the thing that you want to try and do. Because at the end of the day, no matter, you know, whether you like it or not, it's going to be a case of, well, can you sit there and repeat what you're trying to do here? Can you do that in a racing situation? And could you do that lap over and over and over again if you wanted to in a racing situation? You know, that's always the one big thing that we want to try and focus on, because yeah, in my case as well, I could probably go slightly faster as well if I sort of wanted to think about it in that sort of manner. But again, you know, the way that I want to drive the car, the way I want to send you the lap of driving the car, the way that I ever do my track guides, anything like that, I always do it in a way that is repeatable for me in a racing situation, you know, and that's really the sort of biggest thing that I suppose makes makes me feel like I can, you know, teach it and explain it, is because I know that I can do it on a consistent basis, lap after lap if I needed to. So, you know, I think overall structure wise, I think really, really good. I think again, you know, there's maybe a couple a couple of little things that we'll probably notice going through the lap here today that you'll be able to see, oh, okay, maybe I could have held that for longer, or I could have dropped that off earlier, or I could have dropped that pressure down slightly, or I could have picked it up earlier, or anything like that. You know, just minor little sort of structural sort of things that we can maybe go over slightly, but the overall kind of base structure that you're doing and the way that you're applying everything is absolutely perfect. You know, I don't think there's anything to flaw with it at all. And are you as a driver feeling it more so in yourself as well? Are you starting to feel like you're naturally just whenever you hop to a circuit, a new circuit that we haven't looked at yet, like here for example, and you know going forward in the next weeks as well, do you feel like just naturally you can get to a circuit now and you can apply that sort of stuff pretty much straight away? Do you feel like it just comes to you naturally?
Yeah.
Sort of now in a sense as well.
Yeah, I feel like my benchmark right now is like 1%. That's like I want to be
Yeah.
closer than that, like towards the end of the season, be like lower than like half a
Yeah.
percentage point from you. Right now,
Yeah.
I feel like if I go to a new circuit, I can confidently say that after like 1 hour, I can probably within like, or not within, but like around 1%. And that's like that's not something that I used to do before. Like I'd not know like how to troubleshoot some of the issues that I was having, and that feels like very good.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, yeah, no, I think that's a great sort of spot to be at. And again, the beautiful thing with, I guess, the BMW and the rookie series here is, you know, more so a case of, a lot of the tracks that we will visit, will be repeated, you know, pretty much every single season. So it's a case of you do it once this season, you know, obviously we did a few last season as well. We'll probably come back over them this season as well, now that we've learnt, you know, everything that we have learnt up until this point, and you'll be able to kind of reapply everything that you've understood from, you know, this season to last season. And you'll be able to kind of try and repeat it at a circuit that you have been to, and then of course the circuits that you haven't been to before as well. But, you know, every season that you come back, you just learn something new. You kind of grow a lot of confidence with it as well, when you become just a, you know, such a better driver, you know, every single time you visit a circuit, rather than it being, you know, it comes onto the calendar one season, then it might not be on the calendar the next season, and it might come back, you know, 4, 5, 6 months later, and then you got to kind of say, oh, okay, like what was I doing here last time? And it can be a little bit tough to remember. So it obviously, really sort of helps you out quite a lot. But I think the one area today that maybe you probably will notice a little bit around this circuit, and I think it's very, very easy to get yourself stuck into that area, I think is more so the actual throttle part of everything sort of going on with this sort of circuit. And I think, you know, the types of corners definitely can make it very easy to throw yourself into a bit of a loophole when it comes to the throttle, in the sense of you feel like you know, the corner types that we're dealing with, a lot of long-winded, a lot of cambered corners, you know, some elevated, some with big curbs, some with, you know, sort of, all little bits like that. They can very easily make you sort of, go down the wrong path with the throttle sometimes, and bring back in those kind of little habits where you feel like you can be, you know, getting on the throttle, then you have to get off the throttle, then you pick up the throttle, then you get off the throttle, and it just becomes very sort of spiky. And you can see when you look at the telemetry here, almost in some cases, there's some areas where you can see that, like, I'll do it. So for example, there's a particular corner, I think it's the back chicane, where you see me get up and then you'll get down and get back up. But it's more so the corners like coming out of T1, you know, coming out of like the sort of the triple left, you can see you're up, down, up, and then you can see coming out of that kind of right left chicane, you can see it's like an up, down, up. So you can see there's a couple areas where maybe the throttle isn't as smooth as you would kind of wanting it to be. But was that something that maybe you were noticing a little bit, that you were kind of being sometimes, in some cases, just a little bit more tentative on the throttle than what you've usually been used to, with just trying to get from 0 to 100 very quickly? Or how did you feel with that?
Yeah, that's a very good point, because when I was doing laps here yesterday, I was realizing that a lot of the times it wasn't like going on the throttle too early, it was going too hard. And I was noticing that the position that I have my foot, I'm pushing the pedal on a very low spot. So I try to get my foot like hanging in the air, and just trying to push like on the top part to have like more sensitivity there. And that helped. But like it's kind of a different way of driving. So I do have to figure the situation of my heel rest here, so I can have like these smoother inputs, because I was feeling that sometimes, and I was remembering that, like we talked about this before, going like always progressively up is better than going like all the way up and then like staying forever and then finishing it. And this was a particular track that was like, something is wrong here. And I finally realized what it is.
No, for sure. And that's good. And again, you know, I think that's the the sort of the little moments that you want to have, especially when you're turning up to a new circuit every single week, is that of course you're trying to turn up to a circuit and apply everything that we know up until this point to somewhere that maybe you've been to before with obviously the old habits that you were carrying, or it's just a circuit that you've never really been to at all, in your sort of career with iRacing so far, and it's just a case of trying to apply everything we know and apply it in the best way sort of possible is what's very important. But it's also a case of just really making sure and saying, okay, well, how is this bad habit happening? What am I doing to make this occur? But then it's like, well, how do I fix it? And again, you already kind of come to the destination there that like, oh, okay, maybe I'm getting on the power too aggressively and too hard. So let me just try and sort of squeeze into a little bit more and take my time. And again, when you think about the corners we're dealing with here, you obviously know that there's a lot of camber, a little bit of elevation, kind of there's just a lot of sloped sort of area to the corners, and they kind of linger for a really long time as well. It's not just like it's a quick sort of direction change. It's like you're sort of wrapping around the corner for a really long extensive period of time as well. So when you can sort of pick up the power really aggressively, which they kind of prompt you to do because of that kind of camber, but it's very easy to pick up the power very aggressively and almost feel like you can drop the car outside of that little sort of camber pocket, and it will just mean that you can't attack the corner as aggressively as you sort of want to, So it's just something to think about, I suppose, in that manner. But it's an area that you'll definitely you'll definitely sort of understand a little bit more after we look at it here today. So look, let's run through, see what we're looking at, see what the little difference are. And again, this is what we're really going to start to find now, is that we've done the main structural areas, we've understood, we started out with the ABS, obviously started out with the kind of different sort of skills that we wanted to do, so the different structures, I suppose, making sure that we were applying things correctly. But as well, up until this point here, it's still the same case, just making sure that we're not maybe dropping the brake too early, we're not braking too late, and all the little things like that wrap into the whole sort of package together to make the lap happen. All those little things just to kind of need to be happening in sequence with one another, and that's the biggest thing. So starting out with T1, look, this corner's not exactly easy, because I think the idea here is you're trying to do almost two separate corners almost in one entire braking zone. And it almost reminds me of like Winton a little bit, in the case of all the sort of braking areas that you're kind of doing there, or even like a circuit you mentioned you didn't really enjoy at the end of last season was like Jefferson Circuit, for example. That's one that there's like a corner, I'm sure you've driven the track before, but the final corner where you're going up the hill into into the back straight, or into the long main straight, I should say, sorry. Same situation with this sort of corner. It's like you're doing two braking zones almost in one. Now, when I checked last night, just before I hopped off and checked your lap that you'd done from yesterday, I believe it was, or you did your last night, I saw that the way that you were going about this sort of corner was that your pressures in both the areas were very sort of different to one another. So I remember seeing that I think for example, your initial braking pressure was nowhere near as hard as the second part, which kind of meant that it would go vice versa. If you're braking less in the first part, you brake harder in the second part. If you would brake harder in the first part of the braking, you'd brake less in the second part. But the problem is that, like, depending on how you go about doing it, if you're braking harder in the start, then there's probably going to be some sort of negative action that happens at the end, or vice versa. If you brake, too soft at the start, then you'll have to overslow the car coming into the second part, and you just start creating this little bit of an issue for yourself almost in one way or another. So I guess just from hearing that, and I guess, again, you did some more laps and definitely fixed that one up this morning, or this evening for you. But did you kind of feel like that was almost a case for you where you were finding there was maybe a little bit of a limitation with what you were doing sort of in the initial part that would factor the second part, or vice versa? Did you feel that when you were sort of initially driving here?
I did. So like when I started doing laps here, what I was doing, I was going super hard on the first one, and then I was feeling like I was slowing down too much. So the second one was like not as hard, but then because I was so slow, I was getting on the gas too early. But because I was getting on the gas too early, like everything was just going like completely offhand. And that we talked about this before. You do one thing very wrong, and then it's a full lap that you have to pay the price. So when I saw like your telemetry that you're doing like actually the second part slightly harder than the first part, I'm like, let me start trying that. And that's when I
Yes.
started getting more speed, like around this, and getting this a little bit better than I was getting before.
Yep, no, totally. So, yeah, it looks like you've done really, really well with that. The one thing that I will mention here, and you can probably see ever so slightly, is it's just the kind of volume of the second part of the braking zone. So you can see that in the second half, you can see how there's a little bit of like a gap between here to here in the sense of that volume isn't as large in terms of how long you're holding the brake on for the second part. Now, one thing that I will notice, and you can kind of mention if you're feeling this at all, or maybe it's something you're not even really feeling, but you can kind of see that when we look our eyes down to here, you can see there's a gap between, well, how far is it? 83 to probably just a bit over 300, so 83 to 19. So yeah, it's about nearly 40 meters of distance, probably what, like 38 meters or so, where we're just kind of on the brakes already, almost in a sense. We're kind of like having a little bit of like a drag of the brake coming into the corner. Is that something that you're aware of at all? Are you aware of yourself dragging the brake a little bit coming to the corner, then applying it all? Or is it something that maybe you haven't noticed potentially?
No, like I'm looking here what I'm thinking it is. As I'm getting ready to step on the brake, I might like be resting the foot on the brake and having that like
Right.
for 40
Okay.
meters.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is where, like, you know, if it's, well, I mean, I don't think I've ever really seen something like that before, but it's very easy to, you know, do that, especially into a corner like this where you are coming in so fast and you kind of want to, you know, prepare your foot just to instantly get on the brake whenever, you know, that moment comes. But this is where a lot of people obviously like to kind of have a little bit of like a preload, or they have like a bit of a dead zone in their sort of pedal, where if they put a little bit of sort of distance into it initially at the beginning, it doesn't really put an input in. But I don't think that's really an issue for us. I don't think that's something that we need to do. I think it's just more so about keeping in mind just keeping the foot off the pedal until you really need, or just having it resting there without obviously having any input being applied, and just resting it there until you obviously need to apply. Because the problem that might occur, and I guess what I could kind of create a sort of a little piece here that could be sort of affecting what's going on, is that distance obviously there is probably about 40 meters, for example. That is, you know, obviously you're slowing the car down a little bit more. Now, it's more so a fact of that distance there at some stage in this braking zone is going to come into effect, because realistically it's about, it's about 34, 36, 37 meters, 38 meters, the distance between where you start dragging the brake and where obviously then you actually pick up the brake to get into your sort of braking zone. But when we actually go and have a look, for example, at the back end of the braking zone right here, and we have a look how far this distance is between me, well, you here dropping it off and me basically still keeping on, so it's 505 to about 528, right? So you can kind of see that there's probably about 23, 24 meters or so that you're still, well, that you're kind of carrying less brake than me. But almost in one way or another, that could be potentially due because you've dragged the brake a little bit at the beginning and you washed off a little bit of sort of speed already initially by dragging that brake. As you can kind of see when we have a look here, we have a look at our speed coming in where, you know, pretty, well, we're 0.8 away from each other, but that's probably due to the final corner. But more so a case of, you can see that when we start dragging here, it goes from 0.8 to 1.6. And then of course, once we start to pick up the brake, obviously then things start to kind of linger almost a little bit. But I think more so of a case of what I'm just trying to say is that that little extra input that you have at the beginning could in some way, shape or form affect what you're sort of doing throughout the rest of the braking zone, and it could maybe affect the back end. But it also could just be that you're maybe just trailing the brake too hard in the initial part of the braking zone, which then means that you kind of don't have to have as big of a volume of the second part of the braking zone. So do you feel like any of those things maybe resonate with you ever so slightly? Is that something that maybe you've felt a little bit or thought about, or it could be the answer for you a little bit here, you feel?
Yeah, I think like more the second part, because I'm playing for my pedal as we're talking here. I think it might, like, because I have like I think a 5% dead zone on the bottom part.
Okay, sure.
But I feel it's a little bit like loose. I have to take a look. Like, it's a mechanical thing here. But the second part that you said, like the dragging, the second piece that I'm holding the brakes for longer, I think that's something that's like clicking for me right now. Because when I look up the speed, like you're carrying almost 11 kilometers an hour more speed than I am, and that's just like that's probably like the entire difference right there.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, it probably might not make a huge difference, that little bit of a drag on a brake, but it will make a difference, right? Every little bit of extra input that you put in, no matter if it's 1, 2, 3, 4%, whatever it is, it's always going to do something, especially if it's for an extensive distance. Like 40 meters is nearly 40 meters is pretty long. So, you know, for you to feel like you're dragging the brake just for that distance there is definitely not going to be giving you any, any beneficiaries. It's not going to do anything positively. It's just going to kind of, slow the car down more than you kind of need. I think honestly here, man, like we just need to try and be maybe a little bit more wary of how much brake we're maybe carrying through that sort of first part, because I think you got to kind of think about in a way of, once again, as we always know, right? If we pick up the power coming on the exit, obviously, so when we look at it, we're picking up the power at the exact same sort of point. But when we pick up the power in comparison to one another, does it basically make me, does it allow me to get all the way up to 100% pretty much straight away? Or am I kind of having to do that thing where I'm very tentative on the throttle, right? And if you feel like you can get up to 100%, no worries. You've done the corner fantastic. If you feel like you're having to kind of play around with your throttle on the exit and you feel like it's not exactly allowing you to get there with one smooth transition, then you gotta kind of take a step back and say, okay, well, what did I do wrong, right? What input did I do wrong here to basically not allow me to do that? And again, we look back on it now and you say, okay, maybe you held the brake for too long or too hard in the initial part, which then meant that your volume of the second part of the braking zone wasn't long enough and wasn't hard enough, which then meant that in that second part of the braking zone, you probably didn't rotate the car as well. And it kind of just meant that you weren't able to maximize that sort of corner almost in one way or another, right? So I think what you kind of maybe need to do, and you can kind of actually see what I'm doing here, and it's another way about it to kind of try. You can see just in between the middle of kind of when I drop that initial part of the brake and pick up the second part of the brake, you can see I have just a little bit of throttle being implemented just at the sort of that part of the sort of braking zone, right when I get to my basically the bottom of my sort of pedal there. I input some sort of throttle again, and when I sort of show you from this angle here, you can kind of see. So if you have a look coming in, so you'll be able to see. So coming in, jumping on the brakes, trailing off, I pick up a little bit of throttle there and I'm straight back onto the brakes. But what that does, right, is that little bit of throttle actually pushes me out ever so slightly wider coming to this sort of part of the corner. And when I reapply the throttle again, it actually allows me to get on it from a wider angle, and allows me to just have a little bit of a wider radius, which can also lead to just getting me back onto the throttle at a nice smooth sort of progression rate, right? So I say for yourself, you're probably ending up a lot tighter, right? You're probably somewhere around there. Is that probably fair to say? Maybe a little bit closer to the apex?
Much closer, yeah.
So think about trying to pick up the power from this angle rather than trying to pick up the power from this angle, right? When you're tight like this, you're probably having to be nice at really tentative on the throttle, because if you're too aggressive on it, you understeer out over there. So when you're wider, it just allows you to kind of attack the corner on a wider angle. But again, it all relates to those sort of few things then, and saying, okay, well, am I holding the brake for too long in that initial part, right? Am I sort of dragging the back end too long instead of just sort of peaking and trailing off? Then obviously you're not tapping the throttle in the middle. So obviously it won't mean that you get that extra sort of boost coming into the second part of the corner. But then it can also mean that all in all, that doesn't mean that the volume of your second part of the braking needs to be as long, because you feel like you're not going as fast already based on either the previous braking zone and or then not using the throttle as well, right? So does that different approach maybe make some sense? You got a couple of different options to kind of work with there. Either in a case you can use the sort of back half of the braking zone almost in a sense to just kind of linger along a little bit more, or you can actually use a little bit of a little bit of throttle almost in the middle just to kind of kick the car out a little bit. So yeah, what do you sort of think about that? What's your thoughts?
Just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
I had like saliva going the wrong pipe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to catch my breath here.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're okay. No worries.
Okay, all right. What was the question again?
Oh, good. So no, like, what do you feel about those sort of different inputs? I mean, realistically, you can either try it one or two ways. Either do it in a similar way, just tap the throttle in the middle and see if it sort of changes that, or drop the initial brake, have a little bit of less sort of pressure coming off the brake initially, which will then hopefully allow you to extend the volume of the second part of the braking zone to give you the sort of same result. So what do you feel about that? Do you feel like those are sort of some angles that you've maybe given a go, or you just haven't really maybe thought about in a sense, I suppose?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think like the first thing I'm gonna do is work on the brake, and I think
Yeah.
like the tap on the gas is gonna come like naturally, because
Yeah,
what I'm
sure.
seeing here, that's giving you like 10 kilometers an hour of more
Yeah.
speed,
Yeah.
and I think that's what I'm feeling when I'm going around the second part of the corner, which is like I'm
Yeah.
super slow, and I didn't know why I was
Yeah.
slow because the brake like shape's similar, so it should not be
Yeah.
like much slower. But then there's like this pump on the gas, so I think
Yeah.
focusing on the brakes, the gas is gonna be like a natural part. As I hit the
Yeah.
first apex, just gently touch it and get it extra.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So no, look, I think that's all okay. Just a little bit of a different approach there, I think. But once again, the structure looks really, really good, which is fantastic. I think it's just the application of, I guess, placing the car into the corner, obviously placing all the sort of structures in the correct spot as well. I think those can just minorly be sort of adjusted, and I think that'll kind of maximize that area a little bit more for you. And in all honesty, when you think about the entirety of the lap, like this section is actually where you lose the most time thereabouts, bar turn 3. This is the spot where you lose pretty much there or thereabouts the most time. So yeah, I think it's a nice little area to gain some speed back, but just try and think about it in the sense of a minimum speed sort of spot, but then as well think about it, okay, well, how am I getting back on the power? Is it a smooth transition upwards? Is it a kind of 0 to 100% as quickly as it kind of can be? So yeah, no, look, I think really, really good. Otherwise, again, the right things are being shown, and again, we're only just a bit over 1.5 tenths away from each other, which in the scheme of things isn't that much at all. It's just about saying, okay, well, where's that last little bit of time? What maybe do we need to adjust? And that's going to be a big part of it all for us this season, which is a great spot to be in. It's just that every track's going to have its own qualities that you need to try and sort of understand. So yeah, no, look, I think that's all great. So let's definitely keep that one in mind, and I think that'll help you out quite
Absolutely.
nicely. So that's all good there. Now turn 3, so when you look at this is kind of one of those corners that we've talked about in the past, right? So, I mean, you can see that already, and you can see probably exactly what you're doing. You're just basically dropping the brake too soon, pretty much in one way or another. So I think this corner it's very, very easy to feel like it drags you into the sort of wrong place, in a sense of like you feel a lot more confidence than maybe what you actually do in the moment, in a manner that you feel like in your situation you can drop the brake quite early, because obviously you're using that elevation, you're using that kind of camber that you have coming into that sort of corner, and you kind of feel like that by dropping the brake and picking up the power, the camber is just going to carry you all the way through the corner, and that kind of sloped part of the circuit on the inside, it's just going to grab the car almost a bit like a train track and just drag you around the corner. But that's not the case. To allow the car to feel like it wants to do that, you have to make sure that you're approaching in the right way. You're doing all the right little things to allow that to kind of happen, because otherwise, it's not going to kind of do it's not going to do what you want it to do. And then, of course, as you kind of see here, when you try to go pick up the power, look what happens. You kind of start to pick it up, and then you're like, oh, it's starting to understeer, and then you kind of crack it off, and you pick it up again. You're like, oh, I start to understeer a little bit, so then you crack it off again, and then you just feel like you're kind of fighting the steering wheel. So is that something that you sort of felt almost in a way? You just didn't feel like you had that confidence that you were looking for to get out of that corner, as well as maybe you were wanting to?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
also feel
yeah,
like you might be carrying more speed than I am,
yeah,
because I was trying
sure,
to hold the brake for longer, and what was happening to me,
yeah,
I was getting on
yeah,
the inside of the corner. But I'm also
the
seeing
corner,
now
yeah,
like there's a difference where you start and where I start. So maybe just by
yeah,
fixing
exactly,
that, everything else is gonna take the right shape. But I was
yeah,
initially I was
yeah,
like picking and trail braking, and I saw like you were
yeah,
holding there, so I've been trying to do
yes.
more of that.
Yes, exactly. So, again, if you feel like, you sort of do your braking and you get to a point where you're not really slowing the car down as well as you want, or you slow the car down too good, almost in a sense, think about in a case of, okay, well, am I probably just braking too early then, right? Because the thing is as well, like you mentioned, and that's a really good point to add, is that, you are actually coming into this corner a little bit slower, right? So, as a matter of fact, like, you're coming in 2.2 kilometers an hour slower than me, which should kind of mean that, okay, well, it shouldn't mean that you brake earlier. If anything, it should actually mean that you brake later than me, if anything, because you're basically just kind of double negatively affecting yourself. You're already slightly going slower, but then you're braking earlier as well, which just means like you're gonna go even slower, right? So it's just more so a case of you kind of just need to maybe think about in a sense of, okay, well, hopefully T1 fixes itself up a little bit and the line is slightly different, so hopefully you won't come out of there losing as much speed on the exit. But it's more so a case of just anywhere if you feel like, oh, okay, I'm coming into a corner and feel like I get too tight to the curb or hop the curb or it gets too much front end rotation, let me try and go in a little bit deeper and see if going in deeper I can hold the brake for a little bit of a longer period, obviously then allowing me to rotate a little bit better a little bit later as well, and then allow me to get back on the power very aggressively. So this is one of those examples where, you know, just understanding, okay, well, how do I get to my end result properly here? What do I need to do to maximize this corner in the best way possible? And it's very much just a sort of question of like, okay, well, is it maybe, braking marker? Is it maybe I need to go in a bit deeper? Do I need to sort of position myself a little bit differently? I don't think it's that. I think it's just more so a little bit deeper. So distance-wise, you're braking at pretty much the 84, and I'm braking at 89. So it's 5 meters really. It's not anything detrimental. It's literally just a 5 little meter mark. So your braking marker is probably really good. It's just maybe we need to go in just slightly a little bit deeper, and that'll help us out. And then again, just remembering that when you pick up the power here, nice and smooth, you know, no jolts, no kinks, just zero, smoothly up to 100%. You know, you can take your time with it. That's the biggest thing. It doesn't need to be 0 to 100 instantly, but you can just see again with my brake, my on throttle here, there's no joltiness, right? It's just up, 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 up. Maybe it holds just a little bit near about to the top, and then I get to 100. But it never goes down, right? It only goes up, and that's kind of what you got to kind of think about in corners like this. You just want it to always go up. So, no, look, think about it in that manner, man. But I think other than that, that's all really, really good. It's just one of those things that we got to just make sure that we're noticing, we can refine, we can change a little bit, and it just allows us to kind of maximize that in the sort of best way possible. So I think as always, really, really good. Little bit of adjustment, and I think that'll be great. But if you are, I suppose, looking for a breaking point and you are sort of aiming for something, realistically, what I can kind of say is a really, really good one to have. And let me just change this so you can kind of see. But it's on the right hand side when you go to this part of the track, so it's just around here. So you know, just as you pretty much get to that little line right here on the track, almost in a sense, like when you're in the cockpit, I'll probably be sitting in the right spot. But yeah, pretty much as soon as that crosses your front nose, that's where I'm sort of braking. So in real time, it's just as you cross it. So that's where I'm trying to sort of aim for. So do you feel like that was sort of your point of reference as well? That was kind of where you were trying to be too?
Yeah, I was doing like maybe
Yeah.
a few meters, not maybe, like for sure a few meters before.
Maybe early.
I was like just
Yeah,
before
okay,
I hit
yeah.
that, like around maybe like a little bit more than this, but that was kind of my
Yeah.
visual cue. So going
Yeah.
deeper is not gonna be
Yeah.
a problem because I can just
Yeah.
use the same point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fine. So yeah, give that one a go. I think that will definitely help you out a little bit. I think it will just change that whole sort of braking shape that you've kind of got here in a sense. So no, that's all really, really good otherwise. Now 4 to 7. So yeah, this is one where you can maybe see that the sort of the stuff with the feet maybe gets a little bit more jumbled up, but I think it's just more so a case of just the slight little bit of different inputs that we have in comparison to one another are making that obviously happen. So initially coming in, so you can see that you are braking ever so slightly later. Now, you know, this is one of those cases that you are going in slightly slower than me in comparison. So initially that might, you know, hamper, I guess, what you're feeling you can do coming to the corner initially. But I think the braking point, obviously the braking pressure, the way you're holding the structure is all really good. The thing that I really, really like is that point where you get off the trail brake and you trail off and get back on the power, we're at the exact same sort of point. So, you know, again, this is the thing. Because of the exit that you had out of the previous corner we just looked at coming out of turn 3, it affects what you do coming into T4, right? So it's always that kind of, that domino effect that we always talk about, that little bit of speed difference that you have different in comparison to myself coming out of the previous corner. It's gonna kind of linger with you until you get to the next corner, you know. So it's very much just one of those sort of areas that you got to really make sure that, like, oh, okay, like I'm, you know, coming out slower, so I'm probably gonna feel like I can brake later. But then it's like, what does that braking later mean for you? Does it affect you in any other way going into the further part of the track. So that's what makes it quite hard in a sort of sense. But yeah, I mean, you broke a fair bit later than me. So I mean, you had distance 53 to 69. So yeah, probably what, a good 16 meters or so. So a fair chunk. Braking pressure wise, we were relatively pretty good. So my peak here was 27, your peak was 23. So yeah, I mean, it didn't really matter too much. You kind of got to the end sort of mark as you wanted to. Now, the interesting thing is that because you didn't brake harder than me, right? Because you didn't brake earlier like I did, and because your sort of peak structure maybe wasn't as hard as mine was, what happens when you pick up the power here into this second phase of the corner? You're carrying more speed. So obviously, as we exit out of that first part of turn 4 and go into turn 5, of course, we have that little bit of an apex, that little kink that we have on the left-hand side there. Now, going through that kink for me, I don't feel like I'm struggling through there. I don't feel like I'm needing to make some sort of extra adjustment to make the car turn. I've already done the slowing down part. I've already slowed the car down more. So what I can just do is do my usual, squeeze up to 100% as quickly as I can sort of input. And I can just kind of, feel what the car is trying to do with the front end and just trying to sort of, work my throttle input into what the car's feeling there with the front end and just try to get it to bite in perfect sequence. But for you, it's a little bit different because in your perspective and in your situation, you're going, 2 kilometers an hour faster than I am coming into this area. So your mindset isn't about trying to pick up the power. Well, it is about trying to pick up the power, but there's a sense of if you try and pick up the power, the car isn't really going to want to do what you want it to do. So you've got to go through that process of making up what I already made up before by braking a bit harder. You're trying to make that up by braking, coming into that little sort of left-hand apex that we have on the inside there, because if you don't, you're just going to understeer very, very wide. So the matter of the fact is that in one way or another, whether obviously you're coming into the corner slower, or whether you're not carrying enough speed in, or whether it's just a case of you haven't broken hard enough, okay, in the moment you actually do carry more momentum. But the truth of the matter is that you're going to eventually have to make up for that somewhere else if you don't do it already initially. So where it might feel like sometimes you're going to lose more time by doing something initially, in the end, you actually probably lose more time by doing something later on in the path because you're going to have to make up for it somewhere. So is that something that you felt almost in a way? Did you feel like maybe you didn't have, I guess, that feeling of the car being settled by the time you ended that first braking zone, and then, you always had to kind of do something in the middle? Or was it just very depending on how you did that first corner, that second half would kind of occur in the way it did?
Yeah, it's more the latter. So this is one of those that I probably like 30 different ways, and there was like a couple times that I think I did very similar to what you did, which is like going on the gas until the very end, and that was like very fast. But
Yes.
I'm still struggling on making that like repeatable. And I'm looking here,
Okay.
like the explanation on the initial part of the braking. I think that's what's going to make the difference for me. Because as you said,
Yeah.
like after that gets solved, everything else just
Yeah.
like naturally follows.
Yes, correct. And that's what you want to try to be, because imagine again trying to repeat what you're doing here with tapping the throttle or tapping the brake, I suppose, at the exact perfect point, or having the exact perfect feeling every single time you do that every lap. It's going to be very hard for you to repeat that, right? So I think just kind of trying to maybe carry a little bit more brake initially, or even brake a little bit earlier. I think that could also be the sort of biggest thing, and then just try to sort of feel like you can carry the carry the throttle all the way through the sort of second half, and I think that'll be really, really handy for you. But yeah, I mean, when we actually look at it in the sort of sense of looking on the replay here again, so braking marker wise, it's quite hard to pick your braking marker, but there or thereabouts, it's just at the beginning of where the third pillar from the end is, so just at that third last one right there. But pretty much, as you can see coming in, it's more sort of a case of, it's just a really nice kind of, brake, hold, keep holding, then you kind of trail off as you get closer, and then obviously you pick up the throttle just before the inside apex, and then you can see I'm squeezing all the way up to 100%, and then of course you sort of drop the throttle and get on the brake, right? So it's more so a case of just like trying to be just a little bit more mindful of maybe what you're doing up until this point, rather than trying to make it like two big hole areas that you really need to put a big sort of group sort of area of input in, and just try to sort of make it simpler for you. So yeah, again, don't try to feel like you're having to go in deeper to make up time from the previous corner, because in a way that's almost what you're sort of having to do in that situation there. Just try and sort of follow the same marker, so try and break it the kind of just before the 3 there, and then look, again, if you are going slower in, at the end of the day, you're just going to say, well, if I wanted to fix that, it's from the previous corner, right? There's no way that I'm going to be fixing that through this corner here now. So just try and think about that in that sense. And then in all honesty, the second part of the corner, so coming into the hairpin, was actually pretty perfect. If anything, again, because you obviously could have to dab the brake, get on the power for longer. You could obviously maybe have to brake a little bit harder, wash off that extra speed that you were carrying, but the structure was actually really good. So can you see here how, when you compare it to me and you, and again, this is a big part of it all, is that depending on the little differences that we have to one another, we create these different philosophies in our mind of how we got to kind of do sections of a circuit in a way, and we have these different situations that we're dealing with in both of our cars, and we're trying to sort of maximize them or trying to solve them as quickly and as efficiently as we sort of can. But can you kind of start to see that little difference of when that one little thing, for example, like the speed, right? When that speed is a little bit different to one another, you can see how you're making different adjustments to I am, and you can see how that's going to cost you just little bits of time. So you're starting to just notice those little differences that, when you watch the replay and when you go and drive, you sort of can start to see, oh, okay, like by me doing this, it's going to cause this, or when Gianni does that, it does this. Can you start to see that a little bit in a way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So no, look, I think that's all okay. In my opinion, usually what I find a lot of people have a harder time of doing is the second half. So coming into turn 7, usually a lot of people have that area not really solved, because and I think I actually might have seen it in your lap that you did yesterday, but it was all earlier today. I think it was, you were being very tentative coming back on the throttle coming out of that corner, but it's just based on if you, kind of similarly to turn 3 into that left-hand hairpin, where it's kind of like if you drop the brake too early, you can try and pick up the throttle too early, and then you just kind of feel like you're understeering coming out of the corner. But in the way you did it here, structure-wise, on throttle-wise, tin top. So that's really, really good. So, no, look, you didn't actually lose that much time through there, but again, it's just sort of saying, okay, well, where is that time? That's kind of where that difference is going to be. And then as well, it's a case of, just having something that feels a lot more consistent to do as well. That's really what's going to kind of help you out, in a more sort of valuable area as well. So no, look, all really, really good there. So any questions on that area there? Any concern?
No. I think makes a lot of sense. Like as we're talking, I'm thinking about what I'm doing, and like you're explaining. So I'm kind of trying to now think through it, so it gets in my burn in my brain. So when I go back, I can think about these things when I'm doing it.
Yeah. Okay. No, perfect. So no, look, I think that's all perfect. So fantastic work there. That's all good. Now 8 and 10. So kind of the left right. So I think you can see that braking structure wise, I think is really good. What you're trying to do is realistically in the same idea as myself. I think the biggest thing that I kind of saw from yesterday and today. I think you can just see the coming off of the throttle is probably the big thing that's making the difference between you and I here. So the way that you're trying to sort of go about it in a way is that initially you're trying to kind of lift off, you're sort of trying to lift off and initially coming into the right, and then you're picking up back to full throttle coming into the left, and then obviously you pick up the brake coming into the right again. Whereas you can see for me, as I turn into the right, then cut to the left kink, I'm just kind of have a nice consistent drop off of the throttle. So you can just see I'm slowly working down, and then obviously I brake. Whereas it's kind of like a drop off, and then you get into the right, then you pick it up to 100%, then you drop it off, and obviously you get onto the brake. So was that the way that you were kind of feeling comfortable with doing it? Did you try it in any other way, or is that the sort of way that you felt most comfortable in doing things in that sense?
Yeah, I tried a couple different things. When I saw your video, you attacked the first curb, the sausage, the car.
Yeah.
When I watched it, and I don't know if we have it handed there so we can watch together, but I think you attack a lot of the first one, and the car kind of falls onto the second one, and then that's when you hit the brakes. When I tried to do it, I almost went flying. So I was like, I don't know. Then my comfort zone, was going slightly more to the left side there, and not hitting the
Yeah.
sausage and like doing this
Yeah.
lift.
Okay. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, so you can see that, yeah, so coming in, instead of completely lifting it off back like you do, so you can see that it's just more of like a progressive lift. So you can see coming in, it's a progressive lift, progressive lift, progressive lift, progressive lift, and then brake pretty much just as I exit that section, just as you do as well, right? So instead of, in your sort of case, it's coming in, you kind of have big lift here, back on power here, drop off throttle here, brake here, right?
Yep.
It's just a little bit of like a nice, like, progressive negative progression off, and then a positive progression up, almost in a way, right?
Yep.
And once again, like, does it gain me a lot of time? No, it only gains me about 600ths of a second. Does it allow me to be consistent though? Absolutely, because I guess the difference between you feeling like you're going to be aggressively, because again, you got to think about it in a way, you're aggressively shifting the weight around when you do it in the way you are, right? You're pretty much moving the weight more to the sort of front a little bit as you drop it, and then obviously you're moving it to the back again, and then obviously as you drop it, you'll be moving it very aggressively to the front. So depending on what the car does through here and how it reacts, it potentially might not be in a nice sort of way. So yeah, I think the way you got to kind of think about it here is just try to have like a wax on wax off almost in a sense. So like a nice smooth input down on the throttle, and then a nice sort of progressive input up. So you're just sort of slowly easing off the throttle, and then slowly squeezing up the brake, right? So just try and, yeah, as you can see, just think about it more of like, instead of, yeah, so exactly where you lift, so keep the point the same. Just instead of completely lifting off, just slowly squeeze off the throttle, keep squeezing off the throttle, keep squeezing off the throttle, and then drop off and pick up the brake, right?
Okay.
So it shouldn't be too hard. I think that'll be quite easy, and it should allow you to feel a little bit more consistent in what you're trying to do there as well, which is obviously, yeah, the most important sort of part. So yeah, just think about that, I suppose, in a sense. But yeah, I mean, you can see timing wise, it's all relatively the same basically. So just, yeah, think about that in that manner. Because obviously I carry more speed in by having a more consistent, of course you have a harder value there, but by me having a more consistent value, it means that I obviously brake a little bit harder, but also what it does allow me to do is actually pick up the power a lot more earlier as well. So yeah, that's really a big thing. But I suppose you can see by me picking up the power a lot earlier as well, we get the full throttle nearly at the same point, but you can see, look how much time I gained down that back straight, 0.127, right? So realistically, this area here is nearly 2/10 of a second, just in between 8 to 10, and then the back straight coming up to the back chicane. It's kind of, you can see in one way or another, a big area of loss, almost in a sense, So, yeah, nothing crazy, nothing too extraordinary. Just think about it in that sort of sense, and I think that'll kind of help you out a little bit. So, yeah, does that make sense?
Yep.
See there,
Yep.
Alan? That okay?
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. Now 11 and 12. So in all honesty here, I think idea was the same. I think just timing was maybe a fair bit different to one another. So yeah, you can see here, this trail braking wise was great. I mean, structure was spot on. I mean, there's nothing I can say to really improve that area there. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Braking marker, you can see, is way deeper than me. So you're braking at the 18, I'm braking at 89. So yeah, basically, well, what, 29 meters or so deeper you're going. So in comparison to you, I'm braking. Well, it's hard to kind of pick a braking marker here, but pretty much thereabouts, just as the 100-meter board passes the pillar on the left-hand sort of side. So as you can see, just as it passes, brake, right? Whereas you're probably braking somewhere deeper, maybe when the bridge almost passes the top of the windscreen, almost, in a sense. That's maybe where you're going more so, in a sense. So yeah, I mean, was that just your natural braking zone, almost, in a way? Is that where you were trying to sort of aim for,
Yeah.
in one way or another?
I like.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think like one of the
Yeah.
what might be the difference there is that you're probably carrying way more speed than I am, because you just have
Yeah,
like this
sure.
very good straight.
Yeah.
They like are much faster,
Yes, that's
and I
true.
think that might be like the
Yes.
difference there.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point to add. So I think, yeah, it'll definitely be a case like that. But I think, it's just a fact of, yeah, of course you go later, you go a bit harder. I just go earlier, and of course go maybe a little bit softer. But like you said, again, you can see that, yeah, overall I'm carrying just a little bit more speed, in comparison to yourself. So yeah, look, just something to keep in mind. And I think, yeah, that's all okay. Now, the second half, kind of similar to what we've been talking about here today, how every input that you do leads on to another in a way. Obviously, because of the way that you've done that whole first section, it probably makes you feel like coming into that second part, you have to dab the brake. Whereas for me, obviously, yeah, and you can kind of see that, yeah, it's actually interesting to be fair, because I think I'm actually going faster, but when you have that extra sort of throttle that you have here, you can see that momentum is leading back to you. So even though you don't actually get to a point where you're going faster, just the momentum that you're starting to carry in comparison probably makes you feel like you want to dab the brake, if that kind of makes sense. So I think, in all honesty, again, just by bringing things back earlier, braking a bit softer, as well, it's just going to allow you to position yourself a bit better and allow you to sort of be in a bit of a better spot too with everything that you're trying to do. So yeah, man, honestly, I think nothing super crazy there. I think honestly, if you can just bring that initial braking point backwards, that's going to really kind of help you out quite nicely. Going through this whole section, but once again, there's nothing too crazy here to kind of mention. So yeah, did that feel usually quite good for you? Otherwise, other than that little sort of point there.
Yeah, like I think the lesson for me here is I have to trust more the grip, because I'm looking
Yeah.
here. I
Okay.
also, and that I saw also in the replay, I go to third
Yeah.
gear. Like I go to third here,
Yeah.
here the next one,
Yes.
and you just like
Yes.
stay in fourth. And I'm doing like this
Yes.
braking in third gear to get the extra
Yeah.
rotation so I don't go wide.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be like my exercise, trying to use all the track and not be afraid of going off track, because we're like practicing until I get like
Yeah.
the sense of just lifting and staying in fourth like until the end of the lap.
Yep, yep. No, very good one. Yeah, that's a good point to add. And yeah, you mentioned at the beginning of today that yeah, this whole section, you were really running it in sort of yeah, third gear, and you can see even through here, I'm running it in fourth gear once again. So yeah, I mean here, in all fairness, I think here it was just yeah, you didn't really need a brake harder, to be honest with you. I was already going a fair chunk faster. So yeah, I think just to kind of I think naturally just to get yourself down that extra gear, you probably felt like you had to brake harder, right? Because
Yep.
again, we know with this BMW that it has that kind of that safe lock with the gears, right? So if you kind of try to carry too much RPM and shift down, it doesn't shift down. So to obviously get the car to shift down into third, you probably need to put a little bit more brake pressure into it to obviously get it to shift down, because otherwise you'll be spamming the downshift paddle, and nothing's going to happen because the revs aren't in the right spot. So yeah, I think just yeah, I think honestly just try and carry higher gear. Like you said, don't be too worried about the off tracks here. Just try and maximize the areas as much as you kind of can. But yeah, in all fairness, I think just try and bring that back down a little bit and see how that kind of feels for you, in a sense. But other than that, I think that's a little bit of easy time for you to kind of gain back coming into there. But then as we started to see quite recently, which has been great to see, the way that you did T14 here, you were actually slightly faster, which is really, really good to see. It's just more so of a case of, the way that the exits happened. Does it gain you the time through the apex, but then do you lose speed going down the front straight because you don't get as much of a kind of, I guess as much momentum coming out of the exit? Because obviously you can see here that, yeah, you brake a bit later, you brake a bit harder. Obviously because of that, it means that you get onto the power a little bit later as well. But you can obviously see that, yeah, T14, okay, you gain time. But then you can already see, for example, sector 0 there, right? And when we remember right at the beginning of the lap we were looking at, look at the speed difference, right? Point nine, right? So it's more sort of a case of, is it beneficial more to lose the time through here or gain the time through the final corner to then lose it down the straight? Or is it more beneficial to lose the time in the corner here? Oh, sorry, lose it or gain the time in the corner here and then lose the time down the straight? Um, I mean, I guess it's just more so a case of very similar to the previous corners, just maybe bringing it back a little bit, and I guess just maybe compromising yourself ever so slightly through here in comparison to what you're doing right now, just so you can make sure that you prioritize getting that exit onto the straight. Because at the end of the day, if you start that lap off by crossing the finish line and you're coming into T1 slower, realistically, it's going to be already starting your next lap on the back foot anyway, and then you're already going to start to feel like you're losing time, initially comparison to me, for example. So I mean, it's faster. That's the amazing thing. It is faster, and we got to take those ones when we can get them. But we got to kind of think about in a sense, okay, well, is actually being faster here more beneficial for us, or is it actually going to cost us more issues than not? So I think, in all honesty, man, this is really good. Again, I really love what I'm seeing here. It's fantastic. All I could maybe suggest is just bringing the braking zone back a little bit in the case, and then just bringing the pressure down. So distance-wise, we're talking about what, 04 to to 15, so 11 meters, and then peak pressure-wise, you're at 58 and I'm at 50. So you can just kind of bring it back about 10-ish meters, and then bring the brake pressure down about 8 or 9%, and I think that'll kind of be really good. And then it will just allow you to power out a lot earlier, and get on the power earlier, get on full throttle slightly kind of later. But in all honesty, in the way you've done it there, you've had to have a slight little bit of hesitation, because maybe you might have just had a little moment of understeer, or maybe just something might have just sort of slightly happened in that sort of sense. So look, I think amazing lap here today, Alan. I think it's really nice for me to see, and even for you to feel, I'm sure, in driving, and doing your testing for this stuff, just to see, where we came from that first week, when we looked at Alton Park together, to coming to where we are today, in comparison to what we're doing back then to now. Again, it's like you're a completely different driver, which is, an incredible thing to see. But I think it's just more so a case of, you can see how, as much as you kind of understand what you're doing, some tracks can just ever so slightly make you fall away from what you exactly need to do. But then, as well, as we've always talked about as well, it's just the timing, the positioning that you're putting yourself into, where you're braking, how hard you're braking, all the little things like that can also make a slight little bit of an impact on everything that you're feeling, doing, and of course, naturally, how much that time you're gaining or losing in comparison to myself, in this instance. But man. Look, I think I'm really happy, and I guess, look, what's your thoughts? How do you feel about things? And I guess, did you have any questions as well?
No, I think like this was very good. Like in the beginning, I was saying that with whatever I knew at that time, I think I could like get maybe a 2/10 faster. I think we discussed a lot of things. One of the things that I have to fix while we're talking here, I increased the dead zone of my braking pedal by like 2%. So hopefully that's gonna fix like that rest on turn one.
Yeah.
But also I need like something different on my throttle here to have this extra, because a lot of the conversation today was about having this being able to do like 1% and if I'm looking here, and as I'm pushing in different heights of the pedal, I have to be pushing higher. So I'm gonna work on that as well. And like skill wise and like what to do, I think you also gave me a few good ideas of how to approach differently some of these corners. So let's see. I'm excited. I think I can get more than the 2/10 that I promised you in the beginning.
No, for sure. And I think, again, this is what it's going to start to come down to, is when we're starting to look for these little bits of time. Because realistically, I mean, you look at every corner, and some of them are, a couple of them are over a tenth, some of them are over 1.5 tenths, and then some of them are not even a tenth at all. But you can sit there and say, oh yeah, okay, like it's not really that much. But the problem is when you add it up over 14 corners, that's what equals to 8/10 of a second, almost, in a sense. So if we can just try and refine all of those down, and like you said, find that extra couple of tenths, and I think just when you try and make all your inputs a little bit smoother, when you try and get on the power a little bit more, sort of one single input, you go from 0 to 100% in one smooth upwards intake, or you sort of get all your braking done at the initial part of the braking zone into a sort of 3-piece combined sort of section. You get it done right at the beginning, rather than trying to not do enough at the beginning, then have to make up for it in the middle, and then do a bit more at the end. And you can see, again, it's kind of the same situation what was going on with T1 and 2. So there's a lot of like combined sections and a lot of common sort of things that you'll find not only in one part of the track but another part of the track. So I think it's just about linking them all together, sort of trying to make all your sort of your fundamental inputs all nice and consistent, all nice and smooth. And I think if you can do that, then you'll be really, really good. So yeah, Alan, look, a pleasure as always. I'm really happy. I think you'll have some good racing here next week. And then, of course, we'll move on to the next track and have a look. So, of course, any questions as always, you just let me know. But, go away there, do some testing, see how you get on. And we'll, obviously, we'll talk about through the week and coming into next week as well.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
Perfect. No, you're very welcome, man. You have a good night. Enjoy your stream, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thanks, Alan. Good night, brother. See you later. Ciao.
We do have a lot to work on here, which is good. So let's try to break this down, right? What are we gonna work? Like this was, can you guys see this? So this is the throttle, and what I'm doing here now, like while doing the race, it looks different here though. So, oh, I changed things here already. So what I was doing, I was here, and as I go to the gas, like just slightly to the gas, it's already around here. And for some reason, maybe where my foot is, I have to get it higher so I can have this precision, which I don't have right now. I need this level of precision. So I'm trying to fix with the things I have here now, but I'm gonna 3D print a different support that can really give me, you see like how faster this is, like versus this in just like where the foot is. So maybe it's the other way around that I have to do. Get closer. Yeah. All right, so let's close this. We don't need this. Let's look again here. Turn 1, just a reminder. It is braking, same like braking zone, same type of like maybe trail brake earlier, hit the gas, then brake harder, hold, trail brake, and go smooth on the gas. So we're going to be focusing on this and this one for quite a bit, I think. Trying to do fast laps, but intentionally trying to improve this too, because I think everything else is just going to fall in place if we do this too right. Let me look turn 3 again. So this was like we're braking early, so brake a little bit later, and everything else should follow as well. Let's see. Let's see. I don't know if I have the partials here. Do we have the partials here? I wish we had the partials. Maybe we have somewhere. It's just I don't know where they are. Where's iRacing? Okay, it's loading. All right, back on the track. Let's try to implement the things we've learned. And by the way, I'm now using the iRacing overlay. It's not perfect, doesn't have the track map. I'll have to add that in the streams or like in the races. But everything else I'm trying to get used to. So we might just have them.
They see you cut the cord. You'll have to slow down and give up the time gain.
So here we're break like. Let me think through this. Let me think through this. Let's go. Let's go for some hot laps. So here was like a slight break on here, and then like hold, and as we get here, go back on the gas, stay tight, release, brake, and then go here. We also talked about this one, so doing this like more. Less aggressively. Gotta get exit here. I'm not gonna be comparing it all the time. For now, like just a session. So here he's going earlier on the brakes, and like, oh, he's staying on 4. I do need like a better. Okay, we're trying to get the concept to burn in our brain. Work. It might take a bit. It will take a bit. Let's put it this way. So it didn't break, like it wasn't hard. Let's try again. I remember it's about like 40-something%. Like you see, I'm not like slowing down enough. I feel like to go the extra, maybe earlier. It's still too much. Slightly earlier. like he's going inside the white line. So that's the reference. Let me see again his pattern through turn 1. Braking zone is the same, so that's not it. Brakes. Yeah. And it wasn't like he was carrying much more speed. Like, so he had at 211 when he brakes. So there's... So it is the same braking zone. So let's see what happens. I'm still not like... Let's try to fix the brake and then we think about the gas. Okay? Harder. You gotta be harder than this. Gotta get this one right, guys. Like this is almost like, of course I lost the wheel, right? But that's kind of the line there. Let's think here. Checking on the brakes here. Already better. I guess I should avoid like the spin. But for now, let's focus on turn 1. Turns 1, 2. Two open, 2 open, 2 open, 2 open. That's gonna be like a lot of time wasted. When you guys practice, do you also like use the active reset button? This was too much in the gas too early, so it's going to spin. But I do feel like that was a good one. We were 2/10 faster than our best lap. So we're getting somewhere. Let's try it again. Not perfect yet, but it's pretty decent. So 0.7. Because I went too early on the gas, that's what happens. You see that? The good thing, like, it's immediate feedback. The corner lets you know what's going on. Almost getting this one right. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Now it's mostly on the turn 3, then turns 1 and 2. But let's not lose focus on it. That was not good at all. feeling good. I'm feeling good. Oh, one thing. I had to turn off the chat. Hold on. I don't know if you guys said anything since the session was over. So let me just open the chat. Chat or speed chat. So let me. Okay. Where is it? Sorry guys, I don't know if we're talking to me at all or not. Let me look here. That's the first track for next season. Yes, this layout, longer track like this. I use X reset. Yes, that's what we're trying to do right here, right now. His brake shape, more hold pressure. Yeah, I don't like. Is this like the first corner? I have no idea when this came out, so I apologize. Now I should be able to hear you guys. So I just didn't notice I had turned it on.
Drake Walter said T2.
This one, this is the 2. Or like T3. Yeah, like he brakes here, it kind of holds, but if I try to do it, like the car spins, you see? That's what I'm trying to get the difference. Because now I'm braking later. A lot of ABS, like you guys cannot see what I'm going through. Let's avoid ABS here. We avoided ABS in one of them, so let's think through this. Barely any ABS now. Let me try here. It's on the gas, it's on the gas. Oh no. You see like how I'm touching the brakes here? Let's not press the full brake. Let's learn our lesson. It's funny because sometimes whenever I hit the ABS, it's just like a crash corner. Whenever I don't, it's a very good one. It's amazing how much feedback you have just from the pedal. It's insane. This was complete garbage. I'm gonna try here. Let me try one lap just so we can like reset. Think about our stuff for a second. So. I went early on the brake as well, but hoping to go early on the gas here. Gain all the time on the backstroke. So remember, it's like very slow. I'm just gonna reset because it's complete garbage. Let's continue focusing on these ones. I won't say I saved the first like 2 corners, but at least it wasn't as bad. Yeah, like I'm doing a pick in I see what you're saying. I have to try to be closer to what he's doing. It's like pick and hold. Like right now I just cannot hit the gas on the first curve, otherwise you're gonna go flying. This an exit. Oh, I can't believe it's still holding the off track from the previous lap. I just keep pushing here. Yeah, like the easy lift is completely doable. That's not hard to do. Like this is what I was trying to avoid as well. Not a good exit. Let's use this one. Yeah, it's complete garbage, so let's... I know what happened there. I didn't carry enough speed, so... Yeah, like I was braking much later than he was because I was not carrying enough speed. Let's go back. But I think we're getting better on the 3 first turns. Like you see when I try to go on the gas in the middle. But you can... I think you can like just skip that, to be honest. The very end, yeah. Yeah, he does. I was going to third, he was not.
Craig Walter.
So like, let's go there.
Said. Does he stay in fourth for T47?
So, okay. So I was thinking like about different sector. We're saying here, right? This one. So this is 3. Let me see.
You cut the course, you've got to slow down and give up that time.
Do this, otherwise we're gonna be talking non-stop. Let me see. It's a good question. So yeah, he does. Yeah, he does everything on fourth. Good catch. Good catch. Good catch. I'm starting to feel bad about like this combo right there. This was good. And that's when he goes to third, so... They say you have wheel damage.
Said. They say you cut the course.
I'm virtually traumatized with that sentence. Like, I know wheel damage means nothing in this game. It's just like, ignore it. This is a pretty decent one, so let's try here. I have to go earlier on the downshift there. But hey, like our Otmo here is pretty good now, I feel like. Let's look the masses, right? It's complete garbage because of the entry. I went through a little bit. He almost came, like, I had to go smoother on the gas. By the way, Edward and I, and two more guys, like, we're gonna be racing a kart endurance race in real life a few weeks from now. I think 2 weekends from now. Right? I think it's 2 weekends from now. Or is it next weekend? I honestly don't know. Oh, the drift. That felt good. It was super slow, but felt good. Let me try now, like, not focus only on this one, but like focus on the full one. Let me take you out. Was it even a good lap? The first sector was. Gotta be consistent. Let's try 5 laps here. Absolutely garbage this exit. Absolute garbage.
They say you cut the cord. You'll have to slow down and give up the time game.
Okay, let's just go back. Wasn't tight enough. I'll be much tighter in here too. Garbage. This is a garbage bag. The first sector we're flying. Let's compare with our session. I don't think first best lap in the session, so let's compare.
Craig Walter said, try to make 3 clean laps 80-90 then all out.
Good idea. So that was lap 1, this lap 2 of 90%. This is lap 2 of 89%. Too early, I guess, I think.
Just set your fastest lap of the session.
Like this smoother throttle makes all the difference. Too tight, too tight, too tight. This is lap number 3 of 90%. This was bad. I had to hit the brakes, otherwise it would go wide. So this is gonna be trash time. But I do think I have to go to 4th and 3rd to get a rotation in. And I have to get... This is all, like, this is complete garbage. Okay? I know what to do, I just have to do it. So... Our focus starts now. Alright, let's do it. This is 95%. I did have to fix there because we're spinning, but let's keep pushing. No bueno, but no malo. This is garbage, but... I feel like I'm getting better, so I'm more comfortable. Let's focus here. 95%. much faster that car. At least felt like much faster. Ah, yeah. It wasn't much faster, but it was fast. I tried the extra gas there. Cost us almost a half a second. And the tip.
Port Easy said, "Are we getting an online race today?"
Tomorrow for sure. Today's practice day. Today's the day that we seek improvement in the most boring way, yet most effective.
You cut that corner and got a slow down penalty.
Tomorrow race for sure. Yeah, I think too. Like here just lived and
Craig Walter said,
I agree.
"I think you can be just as fast without the throttle grip on T1."
I agree. Let's focus on what we're doing. That's good. Like this, I'm going to the same like extent he is, so. Let me just like finish this lap here because I want to compare this lap against his lap at the first sector, just to see how that's comparing. This is lap 62. Let's remember that. It's gonna be So that was 62. Let's give a few more laps and go back to 62 and compare. Oh, we got an off track. We got an off track. I was pushing it. I understand. Maybe one more lap and see if the rest will have loaded it. Let's see if it loaded already. Let's look at that. VRS
You've got
labs.
wheel damage. Looks like one of your wheels is out of alignment. You'll have less grip out there.
Okay, thank you.
We got damage on the front end.
Thank you.
That aero damage is probably slowing you a lot.
If you don't mind just being quiet for a second. So, let's see. And okay, good. VRS has like a not so good interface. Here, where is it? Okay, teammates. Let's find Johnny. And this one here. So I'm gonna say 62. We're still like, and it's offset for some reason, but we're still 1.6 behind. It's funny because we were before 0.25 and we're like 0.2 tenths faster now. So I really don't know what happened here. So we're actually faster than he is in the first, like towards the first braking zone. Carry more speed, but then because of this he just carries more speed here. He gains a lot. So for us, what that means is peak release, and like maybe peak harder in the second part. But let's release more. Let's just let the car carry more speed, and then pick up
Craig Walter
harder and see if we can get more
said
speed there.
he is braking earlier initially.
Yeah, that's true. That's also true. Okay. Okay, that's why we do the 6. Further the brakes. Release. I don't feel like I gained a lot though. Like 0.19 faster than that one. Oh. Okay. Try again.
Craig Walter said that looked much more controlled.
Nope. Let's truly go earlier on the brakes. Truly early. Let's think here. Let's think. So here we're gonna go earlier and left. Let it go harder. Okay, I thought like I think we were into something here.
Craig Walter said the second braking event hold your peak pressure longer.
Okay. First one is early. Tap and let it go. I do have to step harder though.
Slow down. You got a penalty for cutting the course.
Yeah, Didn't hold. Yeah, this was garbage. This was complete garbage. I can already tell like I can already tell the garbage. So my brain is working here. My brain is working. I feel like it can be something done. So I have to hold harder. I release because I feel the ABS. I do feel like the blimp, it gets like a 10 kilometers an hour boost there. We need to find that as well. I feel like no matter what I do, I always gotta sing myself there. Let me try a full lap. I just no. Not even gonna interfere with this one. Full lap, let's go. Focus only. Another car. The car was about to spin, I had to board on the gas. Completely killed the lap. I'm also going too much, like he's at 25% of the pace. 25. It's a tap. Decent lap, was a decent lap. Let's try again. I have to go very tight though. I already lost a lot of time here. And I'm trying to have my foot higher on the pedal. It helps a bit. I got distracted for a second there. So what I think we need is truly a break, because we're getting to a point like we're making very little progress, so the body kind of needs to rest so it can absorb everything we're trying to do. It's like a lot of behavior changes in not a lot of time, so a couple more laps, maybe like this and one more. Last one. Let's go. 110% here. Now we are in the mode we either impress Max Verstappen or like we lose the chance of our career, so I'm gonna push, baby. I'm just gonna go here because it's the shortest way.
That was your fastest lap of the session.
I think it was like the same, was our fastest lap ever. So we got our fastest lap ever by not a
You
lot.
cut that corner
by
and
not a
got
lot.
a slow down penalty.
It was like our last lap today. I feel that we have what it takes to shave like another half second here. Is it gonna be easy? Definitely no. Definitely no. We're not at a point that's easy to gain any 10th here. But it's getting burned in our brain. It's getting burned in the brain. So our previous fastest lap, let me see. I had it here. M2. How would I save it though? Second win, Third win, fourth one. Okayama. Maybe I just moved to a different folder. $139, and now we improved to 137. So 0.02 of a second. It's not enough, right? But I think we're doing good. So tomorrow I think I'm gonna just relax. Let's see. Formula Fun. Oh, this is cool, but I have to buy everything. So schedule tomorrow is gonna be St. Petersburg, or today already. Alton Park, we have that. We just have to buy the car. Are we gonna buy the car? Probably not. I do have to buy some stuff, so who knows. Then Formula 4. Maybe I'll buy Formula 4 for next season. Donington Park, so not tomorrow. Formula 1600. Never raced this circuit before in my life. We're gonna do this tomorrow, 100%. 1,000% I'm doing this, 1,000%. So let's see, sports car. Oh, actually, it changes the time, right? I'm thinking about the day, but it changes the time. So let's go back to formulas. So tomorrow, never done this before. We have the track, we're doing it. Let's see the other one. Formula 4 is something we might buy. So what do I have tomorrow? Summit Point, 1,000%. Oh, I have to buy the car. Okay, but we're gonna buy the car. We're buying the car tomorrow. So we can do this too. Water racing tomorrow, St. Petersburg. Nope, not gonna buy the car and the track for that. Sports. What do we have for them too tomorrow? Tomorrow's the summit, or today's Summit Point. Tomorrow we have. Oh, we can try tomorrow. What do you guys think? Our first attempt at Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. I don't know if that's how you say it. We can try tomorrow. I think it's a good one. It's a good, like... Okay, so we have 3 races for tomorrow. Let's see, we have the Ferrari. What are we racing tomorrow? Barber. Oh, man. Tomorrow's going to be a packed day. Tomorrow is going to be a packed day. I do have the Ferrari, though, don't I? I thought I had a Ferrari. What happened? Is there like a different Ferrari 296? Because I definitely have one of them. GT3 is not a GT3, is that it? Come on. Come on. We might do it regardless. What do we have on the GT3s tomorrow? Sebring. Never done Sebring. GR. St. Petersburg, nope. GT4. Imola. Track day in Virginia. We might do this. This is unranked, so it doesn't count. So we might just have fun there. Panorama. Shiny new Shakedown. Cadwell circuit. What is this? Different car? Oh, we don't have these TCR cars. That's it. Cool. So I think for tomorrow, we maybe like we're gonna try a full lap with no instant points in Nürburgring, just like on the practice mode. Yeah, we have a lot for tomorrow in terms of Formula and sports cars. We can do Ferrari, we can do M2s, we can do the 2 Formulas as well, or the 3 of them maybe, I don't know. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys tomorrow.